Hi, my name's Ted Venema. Allow me in this video to take you down the country lane of the history of hearing aid development. Just for fun, let's follow all the way from the days of ear trumpets to where we've come today, because all of that's been a long, long ways. So let's go on to the next slide here. Well, you know the old saw, things that people like to say. If I ever got a hearing aid, Loretta, what makes you think I'd turn it on? Well, hearing loss affects relationships, and sometimes people hear what they want to hear, but enough on that. This is a brand new hearing aid sold lately by Hearing and Balance. Just kidding. Anyhow, hearing aids, the oldest hearing aids in the world, eyes. People use their eyes to see, to read the lips. Sometimes people also have cupped their hands behind the ear. Sometimes it helps. It isn't always perfect though. The old ear trumpets from 100 years ago, do you know they actually sound all right? I mean, they actually did work. Trouble is, I mean, you're limited, there's no electronics, and you had no control over the frequency or the sound quality of the hearing aid, but they did have some function and they did help people hear, non-electronically of course. Here's another old ear trumpet. Look at the things that people relied on a century ago. Now, the frequency response of those ear trumpets, look what it did. Let me interpret this picture for you. Here's the low pitches, here's the high frequency, so bass on the left, treble on the right. You can see there's a bump in the middle. That's where those ear trumpets tended to provide some amplification. So they helped, but they didn't really help someone who had trouble hearing treble that much, really, and that's the most common hearing loss in the world. Most people have hearing loss in the high frequencies or the high pitches, and so you'd want to see this lift happening over there, but in the days of ear trumpets, they couldn't control that. So this, I suppose, was better than nothing, but here's another set of hearing aids one could wear. I think it's kind of cool, actually. A headband with two little cups gathering sound and pushing it into the ear canals. Maybe they sell them on eBay, who knows? Here's the first electronic hearing aid. It was called a carbon-based hearing aid. Look at the size of this thing. This would be about yay big, several inches tall. Here's the microphone, about this large, okay? And then here's the speaker that you would hook over top of the ear, and that would deliver the sound into the ear. Of course, all conducted through a big, heavy, thick wire. Here's the frequency response of that old carbon-based hearing aid. Again, bass on the left, treble on the right. Where is the lift or amplification happening? Right in the dead center. Well, they didn't have much control. It was electronic. It was stronger than the trumpet, but still the frequency or where the amplification was taking place didn't necessarily help someone who had hearing loss in the treble frequencies. Now, the next stage was called vacuum tubes. Now, some of us are old enough to remember vacuum tubes. These glass things in your television that were hot to touch. If you opened up the back of the TV and you touched them, you'd burn your hand. That was a way of manipulating electricity that came after carbon-based hearing aids. But these hearing aids were still quite large. I mean, you were talking at least something this big that you'd have to fit inside of a pocket. Vacuum tubes over the decades got smaller. Smaller and smaller until finally you got to the transistor. And I remember as a kid in Edmonton, Alberta, listening to a transistor radio thinking, ooh, this was cool, 1963, I'm dating myself. At any rate, transistors got smaller and smaller and smaller. So, with the reduction in size, you also had a reduction in size of hearing aids. Now, this is an old body aid still, but it's a lot smaller. And again, its microphone would change sound into electricity, and that would be put through the speaker into the person's ear. Here's eyeglass hearing aids that were worn in the 1960s. I still remember people wearing those. The hearing aid was stuck on the end of the eyeglasses. Sometimes, however, the microphones were up front, and that made the hearing aid pretty directional. It picked up sound in the direction you were facing, but unfortunately, when you took off your glasses, you took off your hearing aids. Behind the ear hearing aids were very large when they first emerged in the 1950s. And you're looking at a large curved beige banana sitting behind the ear. It'll show you just how large that was. The behind the ear hearing aid became smaller, and then in the ear hearing aids emerged, I would say in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was president of the United States, and he wore in the ear hearing aids, and people said, well, if the president can wear hearing aids, I guess so can I. That increased hearing aid sales quite a bit, but in the canal hearing aids, smaller and smaller devices. Today's hearing aids are digital, and you know what? Computers don't even look like that anymore. So even this picture's dated. But let me just tell you that what I'm wearing actually is a Today hearing aid. Why don't I turn around and let you see that? This is a digital hearing aid that's been programmed, and it's a hearing aid that is commonly found on people today. It's called also a behind the ear hearing aid, but it's today's behind the ear. It's not the big beige bananas of yesteryear that squealed. Hearing aids today can communicate by Bluetooth with your iPod, iPads, telephones, televisions, what have you. So in short, we have come a long, long way. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a history rundown of the developments of hearing aids to where we are. Next, we'll talk about some hearing aid technology. So far, so good. Thanks for listening.